It's really tough for somebody like you, honestly, to catch up in a hurry because we've been at it. I've been at it 15 years. You've been at it
20.
And it's hard to explain to you the depth of deception, the side moves of DWR during the process, and so forth.
Sure.
Considering one other one.
We actually have 4 lawsuits pending,
Okay.
and a 5th one that might be coming. We have the lawsuit, which is in the 3rd District Court of Appeal on the CEQA document prepared for Lake Oroville. We have the intervention, which is an adversary proceeding within FERC itself, where we're like a party opposing what DWR has presented as the license terms. We have a lawsuit against the CEQA document prepared for the water fix or twin tunnels, and we have, I don't know how many, 20 to 30, 40 other plaintiffs with us on that, and the same thing with a lawsuit against their bond validation action, where they're trying to shift a lot of costs, which originally were supposed to be borne by the state water contractors and people getting the water to the people of the state of California.
This license is basically 10 years since they agreed to it, a decade old. It's never been issued. I think that the whole license should be reopened because it's not pertinent a decade later to our environment, to our safety, and to the recreation needs of the community. And there's absolutely no trust of DWR. So I think if the process was totally reopened, we could address these issues.
I think this whole last year has opened a lot of people's eyes to the history, as Supervisor Connelly said, with our local community, whether it be Oroville or Butte County and DWR, their attitude towards our local community, their attempts over time to continually try to buy off the local community with a few promises and a few projects here and there. And I don't think the local community ever could wrap their head around the type of real large projects and benefits we could ask from DWR. It's entitled Support of Settlement Agreement During Term of New Project License. All settling parties, meaning all people who have signed this agreement, agree to support the license throughout the 50-year term. They further ensure that any filing or submittal must be consistent with the settlement agreement, and they are not to propose any license provision that is in any way contrary or inconsistent with the settlement agreement. So what are you left with? And it might be that something that isn't actually 100% set forth in this agreement comes up. Okay, so to criticize that might not be inconsistent with this, but this is all encompassing. This is the agreement for 50 years. So if you don't like it in any way, shape, or form, this says you're not supposed to speak poorly about it or complain about it or bring any issue to FERC about it.
Have you thought about who else could operate the dam if not DWR?
You know, we're so far down the line, I don't think that would be easy, even if it were possible. I don't know who else would take control of this facility. It's funded by the state through the state water contractors. It's built with taxpayer dollars.
Well,
I don't know that you could ever get a private corporation or oversight. I know in the past, even the State Water Contractors, Inc. has entertained the idea of trying to run the project, because I know from being in discussions with them, they feel they could do it in a much more efficient, cost-effective way that would cost them less money in the long run. They would
The reason that I got to get into state parks is one of the major contributors to lack of recreation at the lake is that we're served by state parks. And that is constrained, I don't know if you're going to Davis Dalloway, but it's constrained because they only have so much funding statewide. Yet, even if they get the water every year, every bit of what they want, and they get all this wealth across the state, our state parks budget here is limited. And I'll give them this, they do a lot with a little, but they need so much more, which they can't open gates to allow people to go fishing before 8 or 9 in the morning. Foreman Creek comes to mind. They can't maintain access like to Dark Canyon and other places because they don't have the budget to take care of it. They don't have the rangers. You can't recreate at night. You can't camp at night in the wildlife area anymore because they don't have the budget to provide the people to provide the personal safety. Where we're at right now is you just think the world would wake up and just listen to us a little bit. I mean, really, Northern California, all of Butte County subsidizes this place to millions of dollars a year. There's 41,000 acres off the tax rolls, which would be about $7 million a year at a CPI of 1.74 a year. No improvements, no changes. We're just talking what they inundated. We have a power plant, Big Bend, it'd be 600,000 a year easy. It's under the lake. We don't get any low-cost power. We had to fight them to get a little bit of money for our water. I mean, they don't contribute to our community in any great manner.
We have to file a lawsuit.
Right, and you were going to win, and that's why they settled. That's right at origin. But just to build on that a little bit, you got to remember when somebody comes to recreate here, they drive on our roads. If they get in trouble, a DUI, or they get in a wreck, or they get in a boating accident, it goes to our courts, our jails, everything. But when that person's on the lake, not one nickel of the money they spend comes back to the Butte County residents.
I think FERC is hearing it, and it must be making an impact. I mean, this was such a nationally recognized disaster in the making. As bad as it was, if God forbid there would have been more erosion or just a little different timing in the rain, you could have had easily thousands of people dead. So that got everyone's attention. I don't know that it got their attention focused on Butte's issues. It certainly got their attention focused on the maintenance and safety issues that have existed at the dam.
Mindset, the culture of DWR is so dark towards Northern California or the people that the facilities rest on. It's not just Lake Orville, it's probably where the canals are and everything, that they think in their mind, and this is me saying what I think they think because I've heard them, you should be grateful. You've got this lake in your backyard. You've got all this recreation opportunity. And it's like, why would you want any more? You know, it doesn't work now. You're not getting any great benefit from it. So if we build more, will you? Well, that's just their mindset. It's just built into them. It's just that, like, dark cloud over them. And I don't individually dislike them. It's just in their mind. It's their DNA. It's the same culture that caused these failures. It's apathy towards us. Mm-hmm. You try to meet with them offline or online, we're too far apart.
Yeah.
The fair, it doesn't enter into their mindset. Mm-hmm. Because in their mind, they've done so much for the community, and we should be so grateful. They're like extending the ramp up here at Loafer Creek, and it's not even close to what they promised us. It's not even going to have a direct impact on us.
Well, you don't have much hope in getting what the county wants from the state. It's more relying on FERC. But what's the best possible outcome of this relicensing thing with the relicensing mechanism? How would it work in your perfect scenario of the next 12 months or whatever?
How would it work? FERC would actually take they did look at the socioeconomic impacts. There is a section of the final environmental impact statement on socioeconomic impacts to Butte County, where, as Bill cited from, they agreed our lost tax revenue could be up to $6 or $7 million a year. They agreed our out-of-pocket costs, although we claimed were $5 million plus, and this is 10 years ago. We've updated those studies for them. DWR and FERC agreed they were closer to $2 million, so they agreed with our costs were at least around $2 million, even though we said they were $5. So if they just acted on the information that's in front of them. If they decided, you know, when we look at balancing the benefits of this hydroelectric facility with the detriment it causes, they could do some balancing and decide that what we're asking for is reasonable. That would be the best outcome, that they said what Butte is asking for is reasonable.
Okay.
These costs are. We're fighting DWR in the state for their failure to study climate change and the hydrologic impacts of the 21st century versus the 20th century. And while the state of California has to follow all sorts of new rules and regulations and project what it will be like in the future, including greenhouse gases and all these things, the state defends their decision to this day. The Attorney General of the state of California defends DWR against our lawsuit, saying, you didn't study this, you know you didn't study this. In fact, you gave us a reason why you didn't study this. You called it speculative. Why is it speculative when you have to study it, but it's not speculative when every other public agency in California has to study it when they do a project? Not even close to this magnitude. So I see this giant hypocrisy and sort of irony in it, that the people that would come after everybody else for not following these rules have an explanation why they don't have to follow it.
So safety should be first in the operations of this facility for all the local people. It is not now. It's on a manual by the Army Corps of Engineers. And it's in consideration of water deliveries and dates. It's not in consideration of safety. Behind that, I think we need to enhance the recreation to the point that the locals get some replacement of all the free recreation we've lost in some real manner, like a really nice trail to the base of the dam would be a start. Hey, actually have tours like they do in other facilities around the country. And then in reopening it, we should talk about electricity. I know they say it's off everywhere, but if you're a federal facility, you get a share of low-cost electricity. That would really immediately help the community. I'd like to look at all the lands they bought around the lake. They were going to have all these different facilities, so they bought all the rolling and flat land around the lake. Well, deed it to the county. We'll have an auction, sell it to some resort where there's some benefit to the community, a place to go, well-run, and some tax base. Or I'm open personally, not speaking for anybody else, but for the tribes. Maybe that's where a tribe should go and have a resort, casino, whatever. Those come to mind. So then last is the social economic justice to the community. We're subsidizing this and worrying about closing fire station, and it is relevant. If we had 41,000 more acres on the tax rolls, again with no improvement, that'd be $7 million more a year in our budget, and I doubt the calls for services would be anywhere near that, considering it'd be rural parts of the county. So that's the way I think it should go.
We put a claim into the state like Oroville and other people did and other agencies. We just received our rejection letter, which means we have 6 months to file a lawsuit. If we don't resolve these issues, my best guess is that's more than probable, but of course that's a board decision that the board will make in closed session. But our history has not been to walk away from large sums of money that are owed to us.
I think Bruce is alluding to, if they don't come around, we'll probably be going to court. I can't see this board backing down.
I think, I don't
they're not off. They said they're going to fix everything, but when it comes to money, they're not there.
In terms of the numbers.
What would happen if the license just wasn't granted?
Well, it's got to be granted to someone. That facility has to be operated. So whether it's a yearly renewal for the next 10, 15, 20 years,
like it has been.
Or it's a 30 or 40 or 50-year license, something's going to happen. This is some inevitable result. As to the form it takes, that's what we're basically arguing about and the disagreements are about.
In my mind, if we could get the whole license at least reopened and go through it line by line and change it, it'd be great for the community.
And I think the community would take a completely different view of what is in this settlement agreement. I think they would see the flaws, the almost like promises with hidden barriers, different hoops you have to run through, different things that have to be done. Nothing in here is going to change one iota again without FERC ordering it, because unfortunately all these people that signed this agreement have a binding agreement. I'm not their lawyer. I'm not going to tell them how to maybe try to get out of it, but
That's what I was going to ask.
that would be up to them. No,
Is there any mechanism?
No, I can't really interfere with their contractual relationship with DWR. That's sort of I can say I think it's a bad deal. I can't advocate and tell them how to try to get out of the agreement. They all have. I think they're looking for an add-on, David. I think they're trying to add to versus change what's here. I think that's the approach they're taking, instead of, well, let's take any recreation area out there. Let's start looking at it again. It's, oh, what did we miss the first time? So,
Forebay, middle forebay.
Without saying we don't want what's in here, they're trying to say we want more.
Yeah, they're
But that's contrary to the terms of the agreement, so I don't know how you get there without DWR voluntarily agreeing to change the terms, which they certainly have shown no inclination to do so in the past, or FERC or a court finding a reason to change the terms. And I think the forensic report proved it. I would even add in the failure to study climate change and how it would affect the operation of the dam played into it. And again, that's man-made. Climate change necessarily isn't, or you don't have to believe it is, but these things are happening. Whatever you think the reason is, it's happening. Weather patterns are changing everywhere. You just have to read the paper or look at art, anything. Why they're happening? Okay, they're happening. DWR said, we see no reason to operate this facility differently than we have for the last 50 years. And if something comes up, we'll adapt.
There's 180% of snow in our. No, it's frustrating. If 27 million, Gallagher said in a speech the other day, drink the water. What's $1 a year a person? We'd be our county woes would be gone. You know what I mean? If they put 20 million a year into recreation,
I remember
you can't make this up.
in the first conversations we ever had on settlement, Supervisor Josiah and I think Bob Beeler. I don't know if you were on the board yet.
No, it wasn't. It was Bob Beeler.
And
it
Kurt
was
just threw out,
He did.
25 cents a customer. You got 25 million people down there. Look at it as 25 cents a year.
That was Kurt's line, yeah. When I got on the board, actually, yeah.
Bill's raised the ante. Now it's $1 a year.
Well, why not?
Inflation.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
No,
think
but that's
amazing.
one of those issues where it makes common sense to say it out loud. We've never heard their reasoning why it's so absurd, or they can't do it, or shouldn't do it, or, I mean, I don't.
Lester Snow in a speech one time said that the California Water Project in total creates $200 billion a year in economic viability for the state. And you're just sitting there at that speech, you're going, really? 200 billion and you can't give us 10 million? You know, it's like, I don't know. You get where we're at, right? I mean, they just don't have to. That's the most honest answer I've ever heard from their attorneys is, there's no law that says we have to make social economic justice or provide for law enforcement, so we're just too far apart.
Yeah, they just don't see any moral or ethical or fair play or anything in our position, nor have they ever, and have basically said, well, you're going to have FERC order it or a court order it. Yeah, it's been such a my whole life's project almost in terms of Butte County Counsel on a statewide level. I mean, we deal with things every day here, but in terms of this ongoing, never-ending project, yeah. I'd like to see us win something in court and walk out of court with a big smile on my face.
I can honestly put endangering our community and water deliveries ahead of that endangerment to our community, is what I'm trying to say. And that's just common sense. I mean, if it would have rained one more day,
Yeah, on Friday.
it'd have been over.
Yeah.